Hey guys, welcome to day 11 of 15 days to Spring Boot Mastery Challenge. In today's challenge, let us learn to build a simple web application using Spring Boot. Before jumping into the coding part, let us understand the concepts relevant to Spring MVC. Let us get started. These are the topics that we will be discussing in this video. What is a MVC application? What is Spring MVC? What are the components of Spring MVC? And we will learn to build a simple web application using Spring MVC. What is a MVC application? MVC, Model View Controller. This is an architecture which is used for building web applications. When you say a web application, it is a combination of both front end and back end all put together and deployed as one single WAR file. Let me explain this with a pictorial representation. First, let us understand what is a MVC application. Most of you might know what is MVC or might be working in MVC application. MVC is nothing but a web application. Suppose say I have a client. This is my front end where I am supposed to enter the username and password. Then I need to click submit. Now a request goes to the backend. The URL is /login. When it goes to the backend, it means that it enters into the server. Whatever request comes in, it is taken care only by the controller. Based on the URL, it will go to the appropriate controller. /login means it has to go to that controller. /register means it has to go to that particular controller. In case of MVC, servlets behave as good controller. The controller cannot perform any business logic. So after getting the username and password, this is a login page. We need to check whether the username and password exist in the database. So the controller sends the data to the backend part. This becomes my model. The model is nothing but our business logic plus the domain class. So technically it is the service layer plus the repository layer. Now the repository layer is responsible for connecting to the database and check whether the username and password exist. If it exists, it returns the user object. This user object is again returned back to the controller. Now the controller knows that this user exists. So based on that, the controller is supposed to open the view page. What can be the view page now? Maybe it can open showproducts.jsp, wherein it can show the list of products. The view page can be created using JSPs. JSP, Java Server Pages. This is a HTML file with Java coding inside it. JSPs will be internally converted into servlets. So guys, this is an MVC application or a web application. Once you have written the complete code, this is converted into a WAR file. A WAR means WebArchive file. And the WAR file will be deployed in the server. If you are going to develop a web application, you need an external server. In our case, we will be using external Tomcat server. Okay, this is for a normal MVC application. Now, we need to understand what is a Spring MVC application. Before seeing the architecture, let us have few pointers. In a Spring MVC application, you have both front end and back end because you have the view page. This application will be deployed only as a WAR. You need to deploy it using external Tomcat server. Okay, one important thing is, guys, remember this Spring MVC application is the basis for developing REST APIs. Usually, people don't create Spring MVC applications or Spring web applications. Why? Number 1, it is heavyweight. You are dependent on external Tomcat server. Number 3, you don't want to have a front end also developed using Spring framework. Rather, you can create the backend separately and you can have the front end developed using React or Angular or any other front end framework. From the front end, you can call the backend application, which is a REST API. But you need to have a basis of what is Spring MVC. That is the reason that we are doing this. One other thing is, when you are working with Spring MVC, you can use different types of view templates. Rather than using the basic JSP, you can use velocity or time leaf. But in our case, we will be working with JSP only. Now, let us see a pictorial representation of Spring MVC architecture. Here also, a request comes from the client. It enters into the server. Whatever request is coming in is taken by dispatcher servlet. This dispatcher servlet is an inbuilt class from Spring Web module. This dispatcher servlet is like a security in a tech park. Whatever request is coming in can pass only through the dispatcher servlet. This Spring MVC also is called as front controller design pattern. Now, this dispatcher servlet is responsible for calling the appropriate controller class. Say for example, the request is coming in with the URL /login. The dispatcher servlet has to identify a controller which is having the URL pattern as /login. For this, it is using certain inbuilt classes called as handler mapping classes. The controller again, after getting the data, cannot perform any business logic. The controller will send the data to the service layer. The service will call the repository layer. Already we have learnt all this. The purpose of service layer is to take care of the business logic. The purpose of repository is to perform operations with the database. Once the work is done, the repository will return the result to the service layer. The service layer will return the data back to the controller. Now, the controller has to identify the appropriate view page. For this, the controller uses the help of view resolver classes. Identifying the appropriate view can be done with the help of properties file. In case of view pages, we can also use view templates like time leaf or velocity. In our case, we will be using normal JSP page only. The view page is nothing but our response. Guys, again I am repeating, this is a complete full-fledged web application. The front end, the middleware, the backend database, all are available in one single application. And this will be deployed as a WAR file using an external Tomcat server. This is not what people use in the industry, but you need to understand how actually a web application works. Only for that purpose we are learning this. Okay. Now, let me show you the original pictorial representation. I hope you can see this. This is the Spring MVC architecture. A request comes in to the front controller, which is the dispatcher servlet. The dispatcher servlet will send the data to the controller. The controller is responsible for handling the request. From the controller, the data is sent to the service layer. The result from the database is sent to the repository, repository to service, service to back to controller. The controller will return the appropriate result to the dispatcher servlet. The dispatcher servlet is responsible for sending the final response to the view page. It is achieved with the help of view resolvers. It is returning the result. Okay. Now guys, this is about Spring MVC. It uses model view controller architecture. With the help of Spring MVC, you can develop loosely coupled application. It is open for extension and closed for modification. While working with MVC, you need to know about the key components. You all know about dispatcher servlet now. The next one is web application context. Already we have learnt about application context. Application context is responsible for creating beans for infrastructure classes. That is the classes that are annotated with add component, add service, add configuration, wherever you have given add bean definition, add repository. This is web application context. This is for creating beans for our controller classes and all web related inbuilt classes. That is to create beans for handler mapping classes for view resolvers. Next one is handler mapping. These are few inbuilt classes. I am not going to go in detail. The purpose of these classes is for the dispatcher servlet to identify the appropriate controller. This happens internally. Next one is controller. We will be creating our own controller classes. Controller classes are just Java classes which are annotated with add controller. That's all. Next one is view resolver. In case of view resolvers, there are many inbuilt view resolver classes available. The purpose of view resolver is for the dispatcher servlet to identify the appropriate view page. Here we will not be writing any code for the internal view resolvers, but we will be writing the information in application.properties. I think this is more than enough for you to understand the components of Spring MVC. Okay. Before starting the application, what we need is an external Tomcat server. So let us download that. Tomcat 10 download. Click on the first search result. This is a zip file. Select the appropriate version. Go to core. Select 64-bit Windows zip. Now let me download the Tomcat zip file. Show in folder. Let me extract it here. Inside Spring Boot softwares. Let it happen. Okay. So it is mandatory that you need to download external Tomcat server version 10.1. Now, what is the application that we are going to do? This is a very simple web application. Here I have two URLs and one form where I need to enter the username. When I click greet message, it is just going to show me some result. Let me go back. If I click show all products, it is showing me the list of products. See the URL over here, it is show products. But whatever you are seeing is not show products page, but it is success.jsp. Next is, I am having a form. I am supposed to enter the name in the form. Let me type it. Click welcome user. Here I have got the output as welcome user. So we are going to do a similar application. Guys, again I am repeating, nowhere you will be sitting and creating Spring MVC web applications. You will be working with REST API, but this is just for understanding how an MVC application is working. Okay. Now, before doing the application, we need to know the flow of the application also. First, let me explain it. Now, let us see the flow of our application. First, I have a JSP page, index.jsp, I lowercase. To start with, I have a URL which is greet. Now, the URL pattern is /greet. Whatever request comes in, it comes to the dispatcher servlet. We are not bothered about it. We need to create a class that is annotated with add controller. This is my greet controller class. In this class, we will create a method. The method name can be anything. The return type of this method can be either a string or model and view. In our case, let us have it as string. So, we will have a method as public string greet and we need to return something over here. This method will be annotated with @request mapping or @get mapping, which has the URL pattern. The URL pattern that I am expecting is /greet. So I can give it a /greet. Now what happens? When a request comes in, it will go in search of a controller class that is having a method which is having the URL pattern as /greet. Within this you are performing some logic or you are calling the service layer, all that will be done. Now this class should return a view page name. Suppose say if I am giving it as hello, this is the name of the view page. This is not data, but this is the name of a view page. But how Spring Boot will know or how the dispatcher servlet will know where the view page is available, what is the extension of this view page, those details you need to provide it in properties file. Okay. So what are the things that we need to create? We need to create index.jsp. Then we need to create a controller class. In the controller class we will have one method. Then we need to have a properties file to specify where exactly the view page is available. Now because I have given hello, I need to have a JSP page as hello.jsp. So the flow is from index.jsp to greet controller. From greet controller, it will go to hello.jsp. Whatever page you want to call. Okay. Now we will try it out. Let me check whether Tomcat is extracted. Okay. Here I have it. Fine. Now let me go to Spring Tool Suite. Now let us start creating our Spring MVC application. File, New, Spring Starter Project. Let me give the application name as Spring-MVC-Basic. Type is Maven. Guys, see here packaging is var. Java version is 21. Language is Java. Group ID is com.greetapp.dast. And package is com.greetapp. Click next. Spring Boot version is 3.4.1 only. This is a simple web application. We are not going to integrate it with a database. We will be learning about it while working with REST API. So now to create a MVC application, we need web module. Type web, scroll down, select Spring Web. See, we were discussing about view templates, right? Here you can see Timeleaf, template engines. Now we are not going to use anything. We are just going to have our view page as a simple JSP page only. After selecting web, click finish. No other dependencies are needed. Now let the application get created. Let us add Tomcat server to this particular IDE. So go to Window, Show View. Here you need to search for servers. If it is not available, go to Other, type server. You can see in the bottom as servers. Select it, click open. This window will be empty. Now click on the link. Pull the window down first. Then open Apache. Scroll down. Select Tomcat 10.1. Automatically you will get server host name as localhost and server name as Tomcat 10.1. Click next. Now you need to provide the installation directory of Tomcat. Guys, we have downloaded Tomcat as a zip file. We have extracted it and it is available in a particular location. So you need to provide the home directory of Tomcat server. Click browse. So for us it is Spring Boot Mastery, right? Downloads, Spring Boot softwares, Apache Tomcat 10.1.34. Guys, remember the location that you are adding should be before bin. Do not include bin also. Click select folder. Sometimes while extracting people may have two folders. So you need to go till the folder where you can see bin folder inside it. You should not select bin, but it should be before bin. That is the home directory. We are looking in for the home directory of Tomcat. Click next. You will get a configuration like this. Just click finish. Now the Tomcat server is shown over here. I want to check whether it is running properly or not. Select it, start. You can see the button over here, or right click start. Both the ways it should work. Let me maximize the console. Now Tomcat server is started in port number 8080. Okay, fine. Now I will stop the server. For stopping, go and click on this button, terminate. Now the server is stopped. I'll minimize the console and let me open my MVC application. First open pom.xml. Here you can see packaging is var. This is very, very important. We are working with the external Tomcat server. So see the dependency as Spring Boot Starter Tomcat. The scope is provided. It means the developer should provide the external Tomcat server to deploy this application. You can see the web part also. Let me open com.greet tab. So this time you are having one more class, servlet initializer. The main class is same as that of your standalone application. Whenever you are creating a Spring Boot application, this main class will be created and it is annotated with @Spring Boot application. Together with that, if you are creating your application as a web application, if it has to be deployed as var, then we need the external Tomcat server and also we need the servlet API and JSP API. To initialize the Tomcat engine, we need this particular class. Okay. Now, what is that we learned? If it is a web application, it has to have a front end, middleware and also the back end. Of course, we are not going to have the database part. We need a JSP page. That is the front end. For that, scroll down, open src, main, web app. You should have a folder as web app. If you are not having, you have added the packaging as jar. So, delete it and create it again. Inside the web app, we need to create a JSP page. Guys, there is an issue while working with Spring Toolsuit. As I told you, Spring Boot favors REST API in microservices rather than Spring MVC application. So, they have not added any plugin or any extension for creating and working with JSP pages. So, explicitly you need to add the plugin. I will show you how this can be done. Go to Help, Eclipse Marketplace, let it open, search for JSP, press enter, scroll down. Here you can see Eclipse Enterprise Java and Web Developer Tools. Click install. Once you have learned how to create a web application, I would suggest you to uninstall this plugin, or else it will make your Spring Toolsuit little bit slower. I will go with the defaults only. Click confirm. I accept the terms of the license. Click finish. After it is installed, you need to restart your application. In this window, you select both. Click trust selected. As I told you, it is asking me to restart Spring Toolsuit. Let me do that. Now, let me open my application again. Select src, main, web app. Right click, new, other. Now, let us search for JSP. You should get JSP file. Click next. Give the file name as index.jsp. Guys, I should be in lowercase only. If you give it in uppercase, then you have to explicitly select this particular page to run your application. If you are using lowercase, this is recognized by Tomcat for running your application. Click next and click finish. This is my JSP page. Let me add the URL. href is equal to greet message. Now my index.jsp is ready. The next step is we need to create a controller. In the controller, we will be creating a method. Now guys, what is the purpose of creating these classes? You need to send data to a view page. Here we have not added any data. For adding data, we will be working with an inbuilt interface and inbuilt class. That is, I will create the data in the controller class and I will send it to the view page. For that, we will be working with model and model map. While writing the code, I will explain it. Now again go up, select com.greetApp, right click, new class. We are creating controller classes. So it should be in com.greetApp.controllers package. The class name is greetController. If you are creating a product app, have it as product controller. If you are creating a book app, have it as book controller. This class should be annotated with @controller. And inside this, let us add a method. As I told you, the return type of method should be string or model and view. I am not going to touch model and view. Let us have the return type as string only. Let me have the method name as greetUser. This method should be annotated with either request mapping or get mapping. So let me use @getMapping. Means whatever request is coming from the front end using get method. Guys, if you have worked with HTML, you might be knowing what is get method and post method. In case of get method, the data will go in the URL. In case of post method, the data will go in the body part of the request. Now in this case, the data is coming in the URL only because we are having a simple link, an anchor tag. Okay, get mapping. Within this, whatever name I have given in index.jsp, that I need to add it over here. Now the dispatcher servlet will easily understand that URL in the JSP page should be mapped to this pattern. Within this method, we need to create data and send to client. For this purpose, we can either use an inbuilt class or an interface. To start with, let me use model. Be very careful. You need to use the model interface which is from Spring framework. Model space model. For creating a data, let me add a string variable. Have a good day. Now I need to send it to the client. If I am attaching this data to the model, it will be taken to the client automatically. Guys, if you notice here, in the controller, a model is created. It is again sent back to the dispatcher. The dispatcher will send it to the view page. So, we are creating data now. As of now, I am providing a hard-coded value. Technically, this is the data that is coming from the service layer. Now, using this model, I will call addAttribute method. This method takes two parameters. The first parameter is a string, which is a dummy name. Let me give the dummy name as message. And the second parameter is the data that I want to send it to the view page. In our case, I want to send this message to the client. Because they are same, you might get confused. Let me have it as my message. So this is attaching data to the model. First line is creating data. Second is attaching data to model. Now give the view page name in the return statement. So here I can have it as return space the JSP page name. If you are using time leaf, you can give the time leaf page name. Let me have it as hello. End it with semicolon. Guys, please understand, here I am having hard-coded value. Technically, from your controller, you will be calling the service layer. The service layer may return a list of data. Till now, when you are working with a standalone application, from the main class, you are calling the service layer. The service layer was returning a set of data, as in list of products by category, one single product by ID, list of products by lesser price. Similarly, from this place, you will call the service layer. Service will call the repo. Repo will connect to the database. The data will come back and it will come to this controller. Now, you need to attach the list of products to this particular model and return the view page name. Now the controller class is ready. What next? Let us create the final JSP page. Select web app, right click, new, other. JSP file, click next. Whatever you are adding in web app will be exposed to the client directly. I don't want to expose this particular JSP page. So I can add another folder inside web app. You can have the folder name as views or pages. Here I have given it as views, inside which the file name is hello.jsp. Now I need to retrieve the data that is attached to the model in greet controller. For that we will be using expression language $curly brace. Okay. What is the dummy name that we have given? Message. Copy it, come back and add it over here. Okay. Don't bother about this particular error. It is just because of the indentation only. Fine. So as per this diagram, we have completed index.jsp. We have created the controller class. We have added method in the controller class. We have attached data to the model and we are returning the JSP page. Now we have to add the properties file. What is the purpose of this? I need to inform the dispatcher servlet where the view page is available. So go to src main resources, open application.properties. Guys, we have created the views folder. Inside that I have added hello.jsp. I want to add one more folder which I missed. So select web app, right click, new folder. Let me give the folder name as web-inf. This folder is mandatory. So you add that folder. The views folder should be inside web-inf. Then only it will not be visible to the external client. Okay. Now I hope it is clear. Inside web app, create a folder web-inf. Inside that create a folder views. Inside that we have our JSP page. Now we need to provide the configuration details for the dispatcher servlet to identify where hello.jsp is available. Okay. Where is this hello.jsp available? It is inside slash web-inf slash views folder. Web-inf should be in capital. There should be hyphen only in between web and inf. No underscore. The views folder should be in lowercase only. Hello.jsp. This is the page name. Now the configuration that I am going to provide in the properties file is the prefix and suffix of the name that you have added in greet controller. In greet controller you have given the name as hello. The prefix of hello is slash web-inf slash views slash. The suffix of hello is .jsp. So let me add it. spring.mvc.view.prefix. The prefix is slash web-inf slash views. Remember to add a slash. Most of the time people forget to add it. I will tell you what will happen if you miss that slash. Next is I need to add suffix. Let me type dot suffix. Automatically I will get the content assist. It is .jsp. This is the configuration details. Now what will happen? When the dispatcher servlet goes to greet controller, it will take the value that you have given in the return statement. Then come to application.properties. It will take this value. Now it has to add the prefix. It will copy this prefix, add it in front of hello. It will copy the suffix and add it after hello. Getting it? Now the proper path of hello.jsp is obtained. With the help of that, the dispatcher servlet will go to hello.jsp. Suppose if I have missed this slash, the dispatcher servlet has taken hello. It has to add prefix. Control C. Now if I add it, what will be the view page name? It is views hello and the suffix will be .jsp. Now the dispatcher servlet cannot recognize this JSP page. So this is very important. Be very careful. Now without forgetting, let me add the slash also. The application.properties also is done. Now let us run the application. Select your project, right click, run as, run on server. A new window opens. Select your server, click next. Now your application is getting deployed in the server. That is why it is on the right hand side. Click finish. Guys, sometimes you may see an error message here saying that Tomcat cannot be started because the port is unavailable. In that case, stop and restart the server. Okay. Now again let me open Spring Tool Suite. First I want to see the console. Here guys, you can see first the server is getting started. It is started in port number 8080. It is identifying web application initializers because we have added that servlet initializer. It is understanding that this is a var and I have to run the Spring specific classes also. What is the class that is getting started first? Spring embedded web application context. Started servlet initializer. Your application has started, that's all. The moment the client clicks that URL, automatically the request will go to the dispatcher servlet. The dispatcher servlet will go to the controller, do the operation, return the result back to dispatcher servlet. The dispatcher servlet will show the view page. Once it is done, you will see some more output over here. We will check it out. Now let me open the browser. The browser was opened automatically, right? See the URL localhost :8080 / your application name. That is the context root. Now click greet message. Okay, now I am getting an error. Let us see why it has happened. Let me go to Spring Tool Suite. In the console I am getting the error message. See guys, as I told you, Spring dispatcher servlet is initialized. See the bean name. The bean name is in camel case. This is an inbuilt class. Now it is showing me an error. Cannot identify views / hello.jsp. After that there is a space. Can you see this? So I have made some mistake. Let me open application.properties. See, after .jsp there is a space. You should not have any space. Why? Because when the dispatcher servlet is attaching the suffix, it is adding the name as hello.jsp space. So let me give a backspace over here. Save it again. Let me select the application. Right click, run as, run on server. Click finish. The application has started again. Now the page is opened in the browser. Click greet message. Now here we have got the output. See the URL, it is showing only /greet. It is not showing me the final JSP page. If you have worked in JSP servlets also, it is the same scenario. The final JSP page will not be visible to the end user. Okay. Now let me go back to Spring Tool Suite. Guys, here you can see. Again the dispatcher servlet is initialized only when the client clicks on any request in the first page. Okay, let me add few more things in index.jsp. I'll do this quickly. href equal to show all. The URL should look like this only. Please do not use camel case. Use snake case hyphen in between. Show all products. And also let me add a form. Form action is equal to welcome. Let me add a form field. Enter username. Input type equal to text. Name equal to username. I need to retrieve the value from this form. Of course, I need to add a BR tag also in between. And let me add a submit button. Input type equal to submit. Value equal to welcome user. Now my JSP page is ready. Next let me go to the controller class. Guys, if you want, you can have appropriate controllers. If you are working with user, all user specific methods will be added to user controller. If you are working with product, all product specific methods will be added to product controller. But now this is a very basic example, so I am adding both the methods here only. Let me add the second method. Let me add the next method, public string show all. You can have any method name. Now let's use model map. Model map is a class. Model is an interface. Using model map or model, you can attach data. So technically from here you will be calling the service layer. Service layer returns data. Now attach the list to a model or attach the data to a model. In our case, we don't have a service layer, so we will add hard-coded values as in map dot add attribute. I need to give a dummy name. The dummy name is products. Next, I need to pass a list. For that, let me use arrays dot as list and let me pass two products, mobile comma laptop. And in the next line, let me return the view page name. Guys, you can return the same view page name or create another JSP page and return the data to that JSP page. Remember, whatever name you give, the dispatcher servlet will add the appropriate prefix and suffix. Hello means webinf/views hello.jsp. If you give success, webinf/views success.jsp. That is how it works. Remember, the return type here is the name of the JSP page. Let me give it as return hello only. And we need to map the URL at request mapping. Pass the URL / go to index.jsp, copy paste it. Show all. Okay. Either you can use request mapping or you can use get mapping. Both should work fine. Now we will add the third method also. Public string welcome user. In the third case, the user is entering his name in the form. Now I need to retrieve that data in the controller class. For that, I need to know what is the name of the form field. Do not give capital letters for your form field names. It should be in camel case or lowercase only. Here I have got lowercase. Copy it. Go to the greet controller. I have to retrieve this particular username. Because it is coming from a form, I will be using the annotation at request param, within which I will give the name of the form field. It is username. I'll minimize all this, guys. And I have to get it in a variable string username. Okay. After getting this data, I can pass this data to the service layer to perform the business logic. Suppose in this case, I want to check whether the username exists in the service layer. So I will pass this username as a parameter to a service layer method. But now we don't have a service layer. I am going to create some message. String message is equal to welcome plus username. I have to attach it to a model. So add one more parameter here, comma model. And now model dot add attribute. I need to provide a dummy name, user message, and the second one is message, and return hello. Let us annotate this method with at get mapping this time. And let me check what is the URL. To avoid typo, always better to copy paste. Control C, come back, Control V. That's it. All the three methods are ready. Now the greet controller is completed. Next, we need to retrieve the data in hello.jsp. Let us use expression language. First, I need to retrieve products. The dummy name is products. I will add a BR tag also. Dollar curly brace products. Again PR. I can have it as list of products. I'll show the products in bold. The next one is user message. Go to hello.jsp, dollar, curly brace, user message. Save it. Now, let us relaunch our application. Stop the console. Select your application, right click, run as, run on server. Sometimes your application may restart automatically. Sometimes it will not. See here I am getting a blank window. Do not worry. Go to this button. Select where you are having your application name. Spring MVC Basic. Now automatically it is getting started. Now see, we have got the first page. Let me click on show all products. You can see the output. My list is in bold because I have added strong. Next, let me enter the name. Click welcome user. I have got the output also. This list of products is a static data, so it is also coming automatically. I hope this flow is completely clear. Guys, I hope it is clear. This project we have done just to understand the flow of a Spring MVC application. We will not create or work with web applications directly because it is a combination of both the front end, middleware and a database put together. Again, a web application is deployed as a WAR file. In a real-time scenario, Spring applications are used for developing REST APIs and microservices only. To get a basic understanding of MVC architecture, we have seen this example. So it is enough that you know about the Spring MVC architecture. Tomorrow, that is day 12, we will be learning Spring REST API, which will be really interesting. You try this application and share your feedback in the comment section. Let us learn, code and grow together. Thank you.